The snow that evening fell in silence, each flake folding quietly into a world that had learned to look away. A thin layer of white softened the edges of the city, dusting cracked sidewalks and empty storefronts with a strange, undeserved innocence. On a quiet block, beneath a flickering street lamp, a sound sliced through the hush. A scream, sharp and desperate. Barely more than a gasp, yet somehow more piercing than the sirens that never came soon enough. Tyler didn't hear the world for what it wanted him to hear. He heard pain, and he heard fear. He was just a man walking home, shoulders hunched against the cold. His daughter's laughter still faint echoing in his memory, even as his hands ached from washing dishes at the diner all night. He always took the same route, his boots leaving ghostly prints in the fresh snow. The rhythm of his life measured by the distance between work and the small apartment where his 12-year-old Ava would be dreaming, curled beneath her favorite patchwork quilt. He missed his wife most on nights like this, when the world felt especially brittle, the air sharp enough to cut right through bone. He'd bought her flowers once on a snowy night, just like this. It was before the hospital, before the slow fade of color from their lives. Sometimes Tyler caught himself talking to her as he walked, asking for advice she couldn't give, bargaining with shadows. Tonight, his thoughts were on Ava, on the leftovers waiting in the fridge. Her macaroni overcooked, with too much cheese exactly how he liked it because she'd made it for him. But then, he heard her. Not Ava, not his wife, but a girl, a stranger's voice cracking open the ordinary night. A scream muffled and cut short. The sound of boots slipping, the faint scuffle of a struggle. Tyler's pulse crashed against his ribs. The alley between the shuttered laundromat and the boarded-up shop was a mouth-swallowing light. In the blue-white glow, he saw her girl, barely more than a child, maybe 16, hair wild with panic, boots scraping at the icy ground as she fought against a man twice her size. His hand clamped over her mouth, the other crushing her wrist. A people passed on the other side of the street, eyes down, feet quickening, pretending not to see, as if silence could buy them immunity. But Tyler saw, and Tyler ran. He didn't think. Didn't wonder if he'd make it in time, or what would happen to him. He just moved, the kind of movement that comes from somewhere deeper than courage, a reflex powered by all the things he'd ever loved. Ava's face flashed before him. If she needed someone, would anyone stop? He hit the man like winter's first thunder, his fist slamming into bone with a sickening, decisive crack. The world seemed to pause, Tyler's breath a storm in the cold. The attacker staggered, cursing, his grip slipping. The girl broke free, stumbling, falling to her knees, arms wrapped around herself. The man reached into his coat. Tyler didn't wait for the answer. He tackled him, snow scattering beneath them, pain forgotten, rage electric. "Let her go!" he barked, voice ragged, chest heaving. The man spat something ugly, tried to twist away, but Tyler held him, knee pressing hard, until he saw blue and red flash through the alley's opening. Sirens. Doors slamming. Police officers shooting, their boots crunching toward the chaos. Tyler raised his hands, blood on his knuckles, his entire body shaking as adrenaline leached out, leaving only fear and doubt. The girl was crying, truly crying, her face buried in her arms as an officer knelt beside her, murmuring words Tyler couldn't hear. "What happened?" the officer demanded. Tyler's voice caught, heart pounding. He was dragging her. She was screaming. "I did what anyone should do." The words felt small, insufficient. The girl? Her name was Emily, he'd learn later. Looked up, lips trembling. He said he'd give me a ride home. But he wouldn't stop. He locked the doors. I tried to get out. Her voice vanished into tears. The officers took the man away, his curses fading into the static of police radios and city noise. Tyler stood in the cold, uncertain, his hands raw, his breath visible in the air. The girl sat on the curb, knees pulled to her chest, shivering in the snow. He wanted to say something. Anything. But the moment was full of things unsaid, the space between them a kind of aching silence that felt like the end of something. And the fragile beginning of something else. The world had gone back to moving. Cars passing, people glancing over their shoulders, drawn by curiosity but never lingering love to get involved. The officer approached Tyler, his tone gentler now. "You did the right thing, sir. Not everyone would have." Tyler shook his head, not sure he believed it. The girl looked at him, her eyes huge, haunted. "Why did you stop?" she asked quietly, voice barely more than a breath. He hesitated, searching for the words. "I have a daughter. If she was in trouble, I'd hope someone would stop for her, too." She nodded, the smallest smile breaking through the fear. "People just walk by," she whispered. "They always walk by." He didn't sleep that night. He sat at Ava's bedside, watching her chest rise and fall, wondering what kind of world he was raising her in. The city seemed colder, lonelier than ever. When Ava stirred, sleepy-eyed and soft, she whispered, "You're home? Daddy." He kissed her forehead, holding her a little too tightly. "Yeah, I'm home. Took a Dieter to do the right thing." He didn't tell her about the punch, or the girl. Some truths, he thought, are better left for mornings. But something inside him shifted, a heaviness he couldn't shake. He kept seeing Emily's face, the terror in her eyes, the gratitude, the hope. He wondered where she went that night, if she had somewhere safe to sleep, someone to call. At breakfast, Ava asked if could make pancakes for dinner. Tyler agreed, promising to burn at least one, just for tradition's sake. 3 days passed. The world spun on, barely noticing the weight it forced others to carry. Tyler worked, cleaned, called his sister for advice on Ava's math homework. But he couldn't forget the alley, the scream, the way Emily clung to her knees, alone and invisible in a world that had forgotten her. He finally called the police station. The girl from the other night, Emily, is she all right? The officer on the other end sighed. She's in a temporary shelter, doesn't trust anyone, says she used to being ignored. But when she talks about you, her voice changes. She says you made her feel safe. The words hit him like a second punch. Tyler looked around his apartment. Small, messy, lived in. It wasn't much, but it was safe. He thought of all the times he'd worried about failing Ava, about being enough. He wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was enough room in his heart and in their lives for someone else who needed it. He filled out the forms, his hands trembling as he signed the paperwork. "You sure about this, Miss Colin?" the social worker asked, eyes skeptical. "You're already a single dad, and she's been through a lot." Tyler nodded. "So have we. Sometimes the best families are the ones that get patched together." Emily arrived with a single backpack, her shoulders hunched, eyes wary. She didn't speak much at first. She kept to corners, flinched at loud noises, hesitated at every closed door. Tyler made cocoa and left the kitchen light on just in case she wanted to talk. She didn't, not at first. But Ava was relentless, as only children can be. "You can have the top bunk," she declared, shoving a pile of stuffed animals aside. Emily blinked, uncertain. "Really?" Ava grinned. "Yeah, Dad says we always share with people who need it. Plus, I snore. The top bunk's safer." Something small and bright flickered in Emily's eyes. Weeks passed in slow, delicate circles. Emily learned to trust the rhythms of their home, the sound of Tyler humming as he cooked, the way Ava always left a light on in the hallway, the simple ritual of 3 mismats at breakfast. She watched, silent, as Tyler burned another pancake, laughing sheepishly. "You ever cooked before?" he asked. Emily shook her head. "Only in shelters. I usually burn everything," he grinned. "Welcome to the club, then. Around here, burnt pancakes mean love, little by little." The ice melted. Emily started helping with homework, talking about the books she liked. Stories about found families and heroes who didn't wear capes. She drew pictures of Swoy streets and brave little girls. She laughed at Ava's terrible jokes, and sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, she smiled for no reason at all. But not everyone understood. Neighbors whispered, old ladies frowned at the grocery store. A single man, taking in a teenage girl. Someone muttered. Tyler felt their judgment, the weight of it. He stood tall anyway, meeting their eyes, his voice calm. "This isn't about what people think. It's about what's right." The turning point came at school. Parent-student night, a quarter buzzing with laughter and nerves. Emily was supposed to go alone, but Tyler arrived with Ava in tow, both clutching paper cups of cocoa. Emily's art project hung on the wall, a drawing of a snowy street, a girl, and a shadowy figure reaching out a hand. The caption beneath, "Sometimes the world looks away. Sometimes someone doesn't." Emily's hand shook as she explained her drawing. "The people you expect to save you don't always come. Sometimes, a stranger does. Sometimes, the person who punches the hardest is the one who cares the most." The room was quiet, every parent and teacher feeling the sharp sting of her words. Tyler couldn't meet her eyes. He felt the tears welling up, the kind that come from somewhere deep. Somewhere that remembers every time he was too tired, too scared, too uncertain to do the right thing. But this time, he had. Emily hugged him afterward, in front of everyone, her arms clinging with a desperate hope. "You gave me something I never had. A home." He squeezed her gently, words thick in his throat. "You gave me something too. Another reason to keep going." Months passed, measured in small victories and gentle routines. Emily became family, not just in the files at social services, but in the way Ava called her sister, in the way Tyler looked for her at dinner, in the laughter that filled their tiny apartment. They celebrated birthdays and holidays, burnt pancakes and snow days. Emily started tutoring art at Ava's school, her confidence growing with every student who smiled at her. One evening, as twilight softened the room, Ava asked, "Emily, What would have happened if Daddy hadn't punched that man? Emily looked down, silent for a long moment. I don't know. But I know my life really started after that punch. Tyler watched her, heart full. It wasn't just the punch, he said softly. It was the choice to care. Always care. Later, as dishes clinked in the sink, Emily hovered nearby, her plate empty. Dad? She whispered, voice barely there. Tyler froze, the word hanging in the air, fragile and perfect. She stepped closer, eyes shining. I never thought I'd be able to say that. Someone I feel safe with. Someone who punched the world just to pull me out of it. He wiped his hands, turning to her, arms open. She melted into his embrace, silent tears soaking his shirt. No words. Just warmth, and the kind of love that builds in the spaces where the world has broken you. Ava appeared, dragging her stuffed bunny, her arms stretching wide. Family hug, she announced. The three of them held each other, a tangled bundle of grief and hope, of new beginnings built on old scars. That night, as snow drifted past the window and laughter warmed the corners of the room, Tyler realized something. Family isn't built from blood, or expectation, or even the past. It's built from the simple, stubborn courage to care for someone when you could walk away. It's the choice to stand up, even when the world stays silent. If this story found you, if it nudged something deep inside, remember you can be someone's reason. Sometimes all it takes is a single act of kindness to save a life, to build a family, to prove that humanity still exists. The world is cold. Be the warmth.